was all a dream.
So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Let's start dreaming.
It alters your life and you never think the same again.
Some dumb thing on the edges of nowhere.
A collection of question marks stuck together into a pit of darkness. No logic, no reason, no explanation.
We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love.
That's just deep, bro. That's deep.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the new podcast, Let's Start Dreaming, formerly known as Frat Chat. I'm your host, Carson.
And I'm your other host, Mikey.
And we have changed the name and we're changing the angle slightly of this podcast. Before, we would talk about just anything and everything under the sun. And this podcast, while it's basically the same thing, we're going to be getting a little bit more personal, a little bit more about ourselves, and just a little bit deeper.
And I'm excited to do this. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so
making it more our own.
So if you were a fan of Frat Chat, you like that. This is gonna be so similar you might not even notice the difference. But we just wanted to do a little bit of rebranding.
And I'm wearing this shirt to pay homage to our currently deceased old podcast, or our evolved new podcast, rather. Because change is good.
Yeah,
Remember
change
that,
is
folks.
good. Change is good, and it's all a branding thing. You know, that's what life is. Life is all about branding.
Yes.
You know, the Nazis never would have made it anywhere if they didn't have good branding. They had a great logo. They had a great name. They called themselves a party. That's very important because then it sounds like a lot of fun.
You make a good point, though. You make a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a great logo, people are like, hey, that looks legit.
They really followed this guy to kill a whole bunch of Jews. That's fucked up, and that's crazy. Wow. But have you introduced the new name?
Have I introduced the new name?
Yes.
I mean, I were you not listening for the past 3 minutes?
We'll cut that out.
Yeah. The new podcast, Let's Start Dreaming. That's what it's going to be called. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our pasts, and specifically our upbringing in public and private schools. Now, I had a little bit of a mutt upbringing when it comes to education. I grew up in public school when I was really, really young, and then I switched to private school when I was like in first grade. So I did like kindergarten, pre-K at a public school up in upstate New York, and then I switched to a private school when we moved to Virginia. My parents wanted to put me in a private school because they thought it would, keep me out of trouble, and they put me in a really small Christian evangelical private school. And then in 8th grade, I decided that I wanted to go to public school. And so I made the switch then. And I just did a lot of moving around. It wasn't a lot of moving around, but it was pretty significant during significant times in my life. Mikey had a little bit of a different upbringing. You went to private school a lot longer.
Yeah, I was in private school from preschool to 12th grade for my whole education, my whole adolescent education, elementary, middle, and high school. I was a product of private school. Yeah, I went to Catholic school, Catholic preschool, Catholic elementary to middle school, and Catholic high school. Good time, I would say. My parents, they wanted to instill the Catholic faith into me.
So that's why they did it just purely for religious purposes, like they wanted you to be Catholic?
And morals.
Right.
They think that public school is moralist, like those kids don't grow up with any sense of morals or things like that. And I mean,
that's kind of bullshit, but
but I mean, I do see the beauty, and I see the benefits when I went there. I see the things I've learned. I see a lot of the things.
So your siblings, all your brothers and sisters, they went to
they all went to Catholic private school, the same schools I went to, except my sister did a few different years in public school, like kindergarten and first grade maybe. Brother did freshman year and sophomore year in public school, and then went back to Catholic school at junior and senior year.
Why do you make the switch back and forth?
I think he just wanted to go to public school because we do live. Look, I live in Northern Virginia. We have one of the best, if not the best, county or public school system in America. So, we have that. We literally have that. Like
A lot of money up there. If you guys don't know, a lot of money up in that part of the country.
We get to go to the best schools in the country for free. For free. And so I guess he just wanted to switch up. I don't know. He was kind of quirky and kind of quiet and quirky in middle school. And so I guess he just did the switch up. And I really did see him, like, come out of his shell a little bit. He started playing guitar, started doing, like, talent shows, having a good time. Then he just felt like going to private school, I guess.
Well, that's interesting because that's the same reason that I made the switch from private to public school because there was two reasons. One, I felt like private school, I wasn't really into the teaching style because, my private school was really, really small. I was in the same class of people, the same class of like 25 or less people for the entire time I was there.
That's one thing about private school is that literally mine was somewhat bigger. Like I had 60 kids in each grade, like a graduating class, 60 to 80. But like, there's some schools, like there's one called Trinity, I think, in my area. It's like fucking 60 to 100 people from the graduate, like from kindergarten to 8th grade. It's just like, what?
Yeah, it's so small. Like the social circle is so limited that you end up having to be friends with certain people because there's nobody else to be friends with.
I can see the good and bad in that. Like, there's a lot that comes from that. Like, people like to spread things sometimes. People like to gossip, especially like in a Catholic school. Sometimes things are just like, oh my gosh, like, and sexuality too. Like, there were no really gay people. There were no out. If you were gay or bi or trans, you were not out in my era of growing up,
Right.
That's so, oh my God, what? What, I mean, my little sister, I think they're a little more open about that. She's in the 7th grade right now, but they're definitely like more vocal and open as society progresses forward,
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I didn't even consider when I was in Christian school was people that were gay and people because somebody in my sister's grade that she was friends with, he was a quiet guy and didn't really speak up for himself. He kind of got bullied by his own friend group a lot. And because I remember her talking about that, like, oh yeah, Matt doesn't really speak up. He just doesn't. People all make fun of him, and he just kind of takes it, and he doesn't. He's so introverted, and as the years have progressed, and people on social media kind of you learn more about them in the future. We found out that he was gay. And he probably just didn't feel at all comfortable revealing that information. And no blame on him because I remember back in when I was in middle school, one of the elementary school kids was talking about because it was the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. They were all together basically in the same building, and one of the younger kids was talking about this song that she had learned in her Bible class, and it was a song about Sodom and Gomorrah, and
okay,
and I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
It'll come back if I heard it, but continue.
It basically, God was pissed at this whole land of people, at this whole city of people because they were butt fucking each other. Because they were.
Oh, that's why they call it sodomy.
Yeah. He was mad because there was like homosexuality being practiced in this area, and so
Darn gays.
So he burned the whole city to the ground and turned the people into pillars of salt, and then they learned a fun little song about it. And I thought that was
probably scared him.
I thought that was so bizarre. Even at the time, I thought, like, even not knowing anything about the context, even not knowing that I was kind of in a crazy hyper-religious place, I thought, this is a little bit strange. I mean, even outside of the gay straight thing, it's just like that's a violent song to be teaching children.
So there's a couple of things different from Carson and I's Catholic school upbringing. I was Catholic school. He was evangelical. There are a couple of differences from our private school upbringing. Is that one, my religious upbringing was a lot more lax than what I've heard from Carson's. I've heard Carson's is a lot more
Traditional.
You could say that.
Well, yeah, no, like traditional.
I don't know what the evangelicals practice.
Like basically like the most traditional form of Christianity that was practiced in America. The same shit that the Puritans were doing when they came to America.
Like, one of the things Carson told me, and I was kind of baffled at this, was he said that his school taught that the Earth was 6,000 years old, and I was just like, what?
Yeah, dinosaurs don't
like,
exist. Dinosaurs don't exist. Fossils were put in the ground by God to throw everybody else off.
I mean, I've heard that on Reddit. Most definitely heard that on Reddit and like threads like that and like humor threads, and I thought that was just like I don't know. I mean, I guess it is a real thing. He coming from you, but I just didn't realize how real it could have been. Like fucking my buddy Carson grew up in the school where they thought that the Earth was 6,000 years old.
Yeah, and, like when I remember vividly going to baseball practice when I was in maybe 5th, 6th grade. My dad was dropping me off, and we were talking about it, and we were having an argument because I was telling him that, and it's like, yeah, no, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And my dad was like, no, it's not. That's not true. And I was like, yes, it is. Yeah, the Earth is 6,000 years old. And he's like, well, what? Like, he's like, well, dinosaurs, fossils. That obviously the Earth isn't 6,000. And I'm like, Dad, dinosaurs weren't real. They were put in the ground by
Dude,
God.
how did he not take you out of school after that conversation?
I've talked to my parents in hindsight, and they were like, that's when we started to get a little bit nervous about the school. Started to get a little bit like, this is kind of bizarre. And I remember on the way to baseball practice, I actually cried because I was having like a crisis. I was having a crisis. Everything I've been learning in my classes is contrary to what my dad, the guy that I trust more than anybody, is telling me. And so I'm like, who am I fucking supposed to believe here?
Young minds are so impressionable. It's so important to just get facts and the truth. And I mean, I guess that's the truth from an evangelical standpoint, but like, damn. Yeah, that's a big, what do you call it? Contradiction in your mind going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back on that thing where you're talking about getting bullied, your buddy getting bullied. So, early, I was an internet pioneer, as I like to call myself, as I just coined that right now. From a young age, I was very experimental on the internet. Like at the 4th grade, I started watching porn and masturbating.
4th grade?
And yeah, 4th grade. I was like 10. Yeah, I was young. I actually wrapped a piece of toilet paper around my member down there because I didn't want to get any diseases. Because I knew you could get diseases, but so
I love how since we're like being recorded, we don't want to say certain things, and you're like, you always call your penis your member.
I don't know. I mean,
you're like, so in 4th grade I started jerking off, but my my Johnson down there, don't want to be too crass.
Anyways, I showed like, oh my god, I brought my friend Steven over one time, and I was like, hey, look at this, and he was like, oh, what is that? And I'm just like, that's what your parents did to make you.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this.
Why did I do that? But anyway, where I'm getting with this is that like, I was very vulgar in my like 5th grade, 6th grade years. Like we would say some fucked up shit. Like, we'd just be outward like, oh, penis, fuck you, bitch, pussy ass, fuck right in the pussy type shit. Like, I don't know, just like using every swear word under the fucking sun because we thought it was cool. But people started like, I don't know how it got out or if I just became vocal about it, but about masturbation. And so like, I guess some people knew I masturbated. And I'd get I'd cut shit for that. I'd catch shit for that because, oh, you masturbate? Dude, that's gay. People would call me gay because I masturbated. I'm like, what?
What the fuck?
Oh my god. I was like, do you masturbate? They're like, nah, that's gay. I'm like, what? What?
Dude, I don't even look at it when I shower. I don't even look at it.
Oh my god. Like, I literally, like, I was getting hurt. Like, You know, I had to get super defensive because, like, fucking, no, I'm not gay. Like, I'm just masturbating. Oh, little did I know. I wasn't, unbeknownst to me at that point, I did not realize how gay or straight I was, or I did not realize how much my God, I can speak English. I did not realize how big of the LGBTQ spectrum I'd be on, or how much I'd be on. So I guess that was some pre-context to that. But yeah, fuck that bullying shit.
I remember it's funny because I kind of have this attitude right now in my life that I've been trying to shake for a long time. It's one of the things that holds me back more than anything else, and that's not being honest with people. It's being you know, oh, I shouldn't tell them that because that's bad or that's wrong or that's like not what they want to hear at this very moment, right? I have a lot of problems with withholding information because I don't want tension or problems to start, and a lot of that I feel comes from my hyper Christian upbringing in school because
I hear you.
We wouldn't talk about things. Like I had friends that I considered my very close friends at the time, and I did not feel comfortable telling them anything. I didn't feel comfortable just like being, you know, even when we were completely alone, just saying, hey, you know, I got to be honest with you guys right now. This is what's going on with me. I'm having these feelings, or I'm going through this right now. I just be like, well, that's personal. I don't want to share that with my friends. I don't want to share that with anybody. That's just for me. I got to hold that down. And it wasn't even because God wouldn't want me to. Even back at my most religious, I didn't really consider God all that much. It wasn't on my mind.
A lot of kids don't.
Yeah, it wasn't constantly on my mind, like, oh, I wonder where God is. Oh, I wonder if Moses is watching me right now. Like, I didn't think about those things. I was just thinking about more of it in a social context. Like, this is not right, so I shouldn't share it. That's a me thing. That's just for my head.
And I wonder how much Catholic school had to do with that, with not just you, but, like, kids in general. Because, like, you know, even in our society, like, it's such a concept to not tell people everything, you know? My parents are like, oh, don't tell them that. Like, why would we tell them that? Like, why would we tell them that? Because they're our friends, and, like, being open with your friends and having an open dialogue and open communication is very healthy, and that's how you solve problems. That's how you get these feelings of empathy and just feelings that normal humans want and or need. And it's just such a far-fetched concept to them. And, like, the mixture of parents passing that down to their kids and a Catholic school setting also passing that down to the kids, it could be a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the weird thing, the weird contrast I hit when I went to public school is that people just didn't care. People were just open, you know, they would talk about anything.
Yeah. There's a lot of like, oh my God, in Catholic school, like, oh my gosh, you did that.
Yeah, no, there was none of that. It's like, oh, I rubbed my dick against a rock outside my house to see how it felt. Like, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. Like, I did that too. Like, just everybody was super open with it. That's obviously a crazy example, but everybody was just super open with each other for no reason, because they were just like, why wouldn't we be? We're just kids talking, and that's what put me into a phase. You know, I went to 8th grade at a middle school, at my local public middle school, and then I switched to my public high school in 9th grade. I only went to public middle school for 1 year, and so the setting was completely different the next year. And so I kind of learned these concepts in that 8th grade year, and I took them into my high school years, especially my early high school years. And at that point, I was kind of how you were, like early in your academic career, where you were just very crass and talked about like whatever, and swore all the time.
Yeah.
We're always talking about sex. That was me in 9th grade, because I was opening that like kink in the hose. You know, it was finally something I could just let out, and anybody that fucking came across my path would hear about it. Like, oh, you want to hear what I did last night?
Yeah. A name that that came to me a lot, very frequently, was perverted, or adjective rather.
Yeah.
And, I remember this one girl called me perverted one time, I guess because I'm thinking about it now, I guess I kind of stuck a little bit. Like, yo, like I was pretty perverted. Like I was just like we were just talking about shit left, right, and center. Like, oh my god, so whack.
I mean, but that
but
is
it's part of
that is
growing
that
up.
perverted though? Like, is that
No,
even
no,
perverted?
I don't think it's perverted. But like, I understood what the concept was as talking about all this shit as a little kid. Like my little sister the other day at dinner time, we were out having a family dinner, and my sister had sent a text message to one of her friends of what one of her boyfriends, not actual boyfriend, but guy friend had sent to her, and it's a diss track about someone else's sister, and he was saying the most vulgar fucking shit ever, and my parents saw it, and they're like, yeah, you can't talk to him. Like, what is wrong with this kid? We need to talk to his parents. Like, Mom, Dad, this is what we do. This is what we did as like 7th graders, 6th graders. Like, yeah, it sounds really fucked up, but like, look at me, okay? Just let me be the example for you. Like, this was the surface of what I would say in 7th grade. So if you're reading this and you think this is terrible, oh my god. But I was kind of a problematic child sometimes. Like, all right, 7th grade, I had this party in my basement, and you know, it was just a basement party. My music, just chilling, snacks, food. I had a girlfriend at the time, Caitlin. Okay, I was gonna say her last name because you know sometimes people you say their first name and their last name, but it's Caitlin, and she was like the dirtiest girl. I might have told this on Frat Chat. She was like one of the dirtiest girls. She was the dirtiest girl in the grade.
Yeah,
and she was my girl. She was my girl. And like 6th grade and going into 7th grade, like there's like rumors like, oh my god, she gave her boyfriend a blowjob. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, you've talked about this, and like she, you know, is she the one that sucked your dick in the Burger King?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in the basement, I talk about the basement party. Like we made out, and you know, in front of everybody, like just in the corner of the room, and like everyone's just having like trying to have a party, like having a good old time, and like here me and Caitlin are sucking face. Like our first kiss ever was a fucking. She stuck that tongue into me and swirled it around. Like that was my first impression of kissing, and so like I think that's not to suck my own dick a little bit, but I think that's why I'm such a good kisser is because Caitlin kind of instilled that into me. Like use tongue all the time. Quick tip for y'all out there: use your tongue all the time. It's amazing. But yeah, no, my parents caught so much shit for the makeout party in the 7th grade. They didn't even know. They didn't even know how ostracized. They at least felt ostracized because the parents would talk about my parents, and that's another thing about Catholic school is the gossip.
Yeah.
It's just so gross. Oh my god, my little sister's parents. My little sister's friends' parents and my parents just gossip so much about these little kids' lives. Like their kids' lives are their own lives, and it's just wild to me. Like
Yeah,
you
that
care
is
about your
whack.
kid, but like, oh my god, to the point where you're monitoring everything. Like, let them breathe.
Did I ever tell the story about my first kiss on this podcast?
Definitely not.
Okay, so this is a little bit kind of similar in the in the way that you had your first kiss. It was with a girl that obviously had more experience, and I was in summer camp. Basically, the entire time I grew up, I went to like a YMCA day camp, and around like when you got into 6th grade, 7th grade time. You started to be able to go on field trips at this summer camp. Like they would take that group of kids that age outside of the camp, and we would go like to the local lake and go swimming, or we would go bowling. Things that were like cheap for a group of kids to do that like the camp could afford, but also things it's fun because you're a group of kids all hanging out together. And I remember we went to this like beach, this like local beach area. It was a lake, but it kind of looked like a beach. And we were all just swimming, doing our thing, throwing the frisbee. And there was like a playground out to the side. And a group of us were in this like jungle gym type deal, playing Truth or Dare.
Ooh.
Because, you're kids, and that's the type of things you do. And there was this girl, Emily. I remember her well. She was blonde. She was kind of the problem kid in the group. That's like obviously she's been through some more shit than we all had.
She's channeling that problem through sexual energy.
And
maybe, who knows?
And this kid Danny, I don't know how I remember these people's names because they were so insignificant. But this kid Danny, who was kind of the pervert kid out of the group, like the quickest to take his shirt off and do all this stuff, and
why do I identify just so much with that? Just add to that title, the pervert kid.
and he was like, Emily, we were just in this circle group. He was like, Emily, like show your boobs, and we're in like 7th grade, and and she did, and that was the first time I had ever seen like, tits in the raw. You know what I'm saying?
Real life titties. Real life titties.
Like that's the first time I was like, holy fucking shit! Like this is crazy. This is like the craziest moment of my life, and
truly.
And at that moment, I was like, I'm in love with this girl.
I saw a pair of I saw her eyes, but they weren't her eyes. They were on her chest.
I was infatuated with her because I was like, man, this girl is just like a fucking free bird, She does not give a fuck. And
attractive quality in people when they just do shit.
And she would always like hold my hand, like there was no obviously it's a summer camp vibe, so there's none of that allowed. I remember the counselor we had, he would say, there's no purple. That was like a rule. It's no purple. Like, boys are blue, girls are pink. When they mix, they make purple. There's no fucking purple here.
I was thinking like you can't wear purple. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, he had a strict color ban. But she would like hold my hand when nobody was looking, and I was like, oh man, this girl really likes me. And when we went to this bowling alley one time, this is where it happened. Like this was after she had showed her boobs.
Shit. She did. You hit a strike, and then she. Oh my god.
No, we were at the bowling alley. I was like bowling, and there were some kids like in the arcade area, and somebody was like, "Hey, Carson, Emily wants to see you," and I was like, "All right."
Oh, I love that fucking that elementary school shit where you get your friend to like be the fucking messenger, like, "Hey, Kelsey's over there, Mikey, go see her," and you're like, oh, "Yes, of course."
No, that's my sister's name. That's fucking.
Oops.
Weird drop right there.
I know.
Like, fuck. You son of a bitch. No, but I went over to this arcade and she just kissed me on the lips. And I don't remember too much about it. I just remember she kissed me on the lips and it just blew my fucking mind. And
I bet.
And I was just like walking on clouds the rest of that day. And after that week was over, Emily never came back to camp because some people would come for like 2 weeks, some people would come for a week, whatever.
Damn.
And I never saw her again.
Damn. That's like a whole love story. That's like Twilight type shit right there. Wow. Never got her phone number. Never knew anything about her after that.
Never knew anything about her. Didn't know her last name. Didn't know anything. Just knew what she looked like and what we did.
Damn. I have so many, like, I have quite a few elementary, middle school love stories that I would love to get into at later times of this episode of this series. But as I look at the clock, we're finishing up with this episode.
Yeah.
What a great episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catholic school was definitely something. If you've never been, go back, get a time machine, do it again, try it out. It's definitely an experience. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Dream.
Mikey doesn't know the name of the podcast yet.
Thank you for tuning into our new titled podcast.
Our newly titled podcast. We can put it in post.
I'll just record whatever it's called.
Let's start
dreaming, but in that tone. So cut it into there. Oh shit, my camera just turned off. But yeah, thanks for recording. Thanks for coming through. My name is Mikey. I'm your co-host.
And my name is Carson, and we'll talk to you guys on Sunday.
See ya.
Been feeling disconnected now. I get money. No, I'm reckless now. I get high. Coming off the ground. This life is a prison. Someone let me out. Been feeling disconnected now. I get money.